Death is the final destination of finality. The story shrouded in the mystery of death will hold a true testament to the beliefs of groups throughout history and today. You're listening to Death the Show with your hosts, Chuck Banks and Ghostbait.
You are listening to the revolutionary Death the Show. We are searching for answers regarding life after death and the mysteries of today. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and Odyssey Radio. Don't forget to follow them for all the great shows and lineups that are there. Sit back and relax as we get ready to lock and load, folks. This week, we got Jack Kenna. He's one of the most, America's most respected, accomplished paranormal investigators, and he's a good friend of mine. And I've had him on the show in the past, and Jack, I'm just excited to have you on tonight. Kind of a new venue, and I'm kind of coming out of retirement and that sort of stuff. But man, we were talking about bowling over the weekend.
we were. Yeah, we were. Like I said, I used to bowl years ago in my 20s. Like you said, you did stuff like that. And I was at the end. I was really good, but I never went professional. But I bowled over the weekend at Rochester Parafest against Melanie Roche from Naked and Afraid, and it was a lot of fun. She's an awesome person. I got to really know. And that was one thing I liked about bowling, right? You get to talk to people, you get to meet new people. And that's what we did. We kind of hung out, we bowled, and we just got talking and found out a lot about her and why she did the show that she did and her reasons for it. And she's just an awesome person. And people don't think about it. She's like, well, what's she doing at a paranormal event? Interesting enough, some of the people from that show had paranormal experiences while they were on that show. That's not what the show talks about, obviously, but she's had some very interesting experiences, even when she was growing up and stuff. But she had some experiences while out in the swamps and the woods and stuff, and so it's interesting to listen to that. And it's just things you don't think about. So these are people who really weren't really into that, who had their experiences. And when we talk about the paranormal, it's kind of one of those things, it just kind of slaps you in the face, so to say, right? Right. And that's kind of what happened. It's just like I'm actually exist. Here you go. It's like, what the hell? They're not expecting it, right? They're not. But again, interestingly enough, they had some experiences when they were younger too. Before they got into doing shows and other stuff. And she was in the Navy as well. She's a veteran, and a lot of people don't know that about her either. And I'll say this about her: she really is, although not like in a public way, but she's really into trying to help people deal with PTSD. I know that's not paranormal related and like that, but this individual really I got to know her this year, really kind of impressed me about what she's really about and what she's into. And it's great to see people like that, because actually we don't think about it, but there's a PTSD element to the paranormal. When you're dealing with like cases and clients and stuff, private individuals like I do, there's stuff from their past that often brings in these negative hauntings that they deal with and stuff. And a lot of that is from traumatic events that they're still suffering PTSD from, that can be things as horrible as family rape and things like that. So, it kind of really all kind of ties in when you start thinking about it. And there's that aspect to it. And, these people who reach out and talk to other people about this and try to get them help and stuff like that, it really feeds into even a portion of what we do as paranormal investigators who are dealing with trying to help people who are experiencing hauntings and stuff like that.
Do you think that PTSD definitely has like an assertion, to maybe be more prone to attachments or things of that nature?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, just from
like something kind of happened to you, Chuck, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like from cases I've worked on and stuff. Almost every single case, that person is suffering from PTSD for some reason or another, or even from the haunting. right? I mean, there can be residual effects from these hauntings that we don't necessarily always think about, but these can be traumatic events to these people, especially with attachments and things like that. And you can have nightmares about it after, and just certain things can set you off. Well, guess what? That's PTSD, right? And you just don't think about it, and you're not realizing it, but you need help with that too. So, I mean, it was the whole thing goes back to my conversation with Melanie and discussions about that and things she experienced while on the show and paranormal related things that even still kind of haunt her to this day too. So, that's where we kind of went with that. And that's why I think PTSD feeds into a lot of what we do, which without us really even thinking about it. And if you really think about it, if you think about some of these spirits that we sometimes deal with at different locations, these spirits can be suffering from PTSD. I mean, they're actually, if you think about it, it's like people go, well, how could a spirit, you're talking about a human soul. You're talking about who we are, right? That soul of that person. That's who we are. And it has all our memories. And this is who we really are. This is our memories and our thoughts. So all that is still there. So some of these places that are haunted can be haunted by human spirits who are actually still suffering from PTSD themselves.
Like when we talk the difference between intelligent and residual haunting, I mean, I have a pretty good, idea what that is, Jack, and how it kind of envelopes on everything. But, what do you see more of? Do you see more of the residual or do you see more of the intelligent hauntings?
Intelligent. The stuff I deal with is usually intelligent. There could be a mix of it at different locations. I've seen that. I've seen where I've had a mix of residual and intelligent. But a lot of what I and our team deal with is actually intelligent haunting. It's trying to interact with the people that are there, and it's trying to, either manipulate them or trying to get something from them or I mean, I have dealt with actual true demonic cases where you're dealing with somebody who's either possessed or under oppression. And these things are definitely interacting with those people because that's what they want to do, right? So they have a purpose for what they're doing, these true demonic cases.
How do you attack like a demonic case versus just an angry, spirit that may be wanting to cross over in this, that, and the other? How do you attack it differently?
Well, it's a long process. Number one, it's a long process. You don't just go in one night, investigate, and go, oh, here's what your problem is. True demonic cases actually take months, sometimes a year just to figure out, okay, especially if it's a possession case, because there's a lot of nuances to it. See, people have this idea from what they see on TV that demonic cases, people are always being, anybody goes there is scratched or attacked or this or that. When you're an actual investigator and you really go into these demonic type cases, when you go there, you would think there's nothing going on at all. Nothing. Because the demon really doesn't want you to know. It wants you to believe these people are just crazy. There's nothing there. You actually almost capture no evidence at all. No EVPs, no nothing. It's all in the individual who's being affected. So you have to start to identify slowly, all right, we're not catching EVPs, but we know there's stuff going on here. This family, you get to know the family, so you know they're not crazy. So you have to start to disseminate who is most of this activity happening to, what is that individual telling us, and it takes a long time, and there's different types of things you can do to determine if there's something actually affecting them or not. And sometimes tells will be you start having problems at your own house, right? When, things to prevent you from getting to the case, right? I've had my GPS in any case where I've got some kind of demonic influence, which hasn't happened too often, but all of a sudden my GPS will try to reroute me back home immediately. It'll say, make a U-turn. And I was like, what the hell? And it'll keep doing it. I have to shut it off and reset the whole damn thing to get it to go back to where I want it to. And then even later on, it'll try to make me make a wrong turn. It's like, turn left here. It's like, it's a right. I can see it's a right. But it'll be telling me something else. I had it one time at one case, I was heading up to actually reset, while I was driving, reset the date and the time to a different date and time to make me think I was going up there at the wrong time. It's changed it to a day before. So it made me think I was a day early. Yeah, oh yeah, I've seen all kinds of crazy things happen with those. But they're not obvious with activity. They don't have a lot of activity. Whereas a case with a human spirit that says, I'm a demon, stuff like that, sometimes you get EVPs like that, I just shake my head now because it's very active. It's much more active. It's causing more trouble for the family in the ways of just physical activity, things like that. You might see people getting scratched. You might get scratched while they're. You might hear disembodied voices. It's much more obvious. But even that takes some time to figure out. It takes really a few months to work on a case. All right, realistically. All right, and to help them properly, because you got to figure out what's really going on, what kind of spirit you're dealing with, and then what you need to do to help them. And sometimes it's bringing in somebody who's more versed with doing cleansings and things like that, or the right type of people to move whatever's they're on. All right, so it takes time to figure out. It takes time to do. But the difference is when you're dealing with something demonic, you've got to be much more careful, and you've got to be a lot more grounded in your own faith. And you have to bring in. It's weird because you got to identify what type of demonic spirit is affecting this family. By that, what do I mean? Okay, not everybody's Catholic, right? So, although it does seem like with people who are Catholic, they're affected by what we call regular demons, fallen angels. With people who are Muslim or something else, they seem to be dealing with a different type, like a jinn or something different that deals with their culture. So it's interesting, and then you have to bring in the right people, which I don't do those type of cleansings or things. So you have to bring in an exorcist or a priest or something that's connected to that family's faith to work with them. And then you kind of turn it over at that point for them to work with their clergy or, their ministers and whatever. Because we can't, that gets much more in depth of somebody's faith, sure, what they believe in. So they have to work with somebody from, their ministry, or whatever their faith is. And they've got to work together with that. So that's a little bit different. Whereas just a human spirit, we can try to work with that through, a lot of people don't know it, but I am psychic. I don't use it for anything but cases. So I can communicate sometimes with spirit and get an idea of what they're trying to convey. And sometimes you can get answers for that and help them come to terms, right? They can still live together. The family can live with the spirit there and so on and so forth. Depends on what's going on. And other times you might need a more of a medium, right? Because I don't say that I'm a medium necessarily, but somebody who's much more versed in talking with spirit or communicating better with spirit, who can either cross them over or do what needs to be done. And if it's an elemental spirit, okay, that's something even completely different. Then you maybe want to bring in somebody who's more along the lines of Native American, who can deal with these more Native American type elemental spirits. So a shaman, things like that. So you just got to know what you're dealing with. And that's why it takes time. You don't go in one night investigation and go, oh yeah, this is what you're dealing with. It doesn't happen. Trust me. It does not happen. There were cases for months, Yeah.
This past weekend, we done an investigation with Chuck actually at Cambry House in Nauvoo, Illinois. And there's a Native American presence there, and did the dedication that we did give them tobacco to appease the Native American spirits. And we had a really active investigation. It was a good time.
Yeah, and it can be. I mean, elemental spirits really aren't trying to hurt anybody, realistically. They just don't like us humans because we don't take good care of the earth, so they try to chase us out. That's really what's going on. They're trying to push you out of a location. They will do things to scare the hell out of the family. Mm-hmm. I mean, things on the verge of being harmful. But if you watch those type of cases, nobody's ever really hurt physically. Right? I mean, they may get scratched, things like that, but they're not to the point where they're possessed or they're trying to commit suicide or things like that. But they will try to drive a family out of a location, definitely. But there is things you can do, like you were talking about, the tobacco and things like that, you can do to appease them. And you can, sometimes put out a platter of fruit, honey, beer, they seem to like beer for whatever reason, and tobacco, things like that. And you can put that out as an offering every week.
Actually, at Hinsdale, we did tobacco, clear quartz, and an apple. Yeah,
exactly. And those are the things you can do, to give an offering to them. And Hinsdale is one location that definitely, I've been there many times, does have an elemental spirit attached to it. It's got other things too, but it does have an elemental spirit associated with it as well. I also believe in that particular case, the house itself is sentient. The house is self-aware. And there's a reason I believe that.
Now,
Two experiences I had.
you really kind of brought me into my next question that I really wanted to touch base with you. Homes, artifacts, or people? Which one is most likely the haunted verdict?
People.
Yeah.
People. From my own experiences, people. And I think that's just because of our mental state of mind, we can bring things to us, okay? We can also do stupid things and say stupid things that bring things to us, too, or open us up to it. But I think that's why more often people tend to end up with a haunting than an item ends up being haunted. There is haunted items out there, that's for sure. They have attachments to them, stuff like that. But I actually believe people are more susceptible to having an attachment to them than a house or an item or anything else. Yeah.
And see, this is why it's such an easy interview, Jack, because I agree with almost 100% of your explanations when it comes to that stuff. But let's
That's
talk.
just my opinion. It's just my opinion.
Yeah,
personal theories on things, but it's just based on my own personal experiences and what I've seen happen.
Now, let's go back to your first experience that really opened your eyes, regarding the paranormal itself, and said, "Aha, I'm here." What hit you over the head?
Actually, it was something that chased me. I left the paranormal because of it. It was actually my own story. It was on my Paranormal Nightmare on the TV series there. And at age 17, I had something really. I always had paranormal stuff happen to me. Nothing ever bad, but this time something came to me, and it was. I always tell people, Zach Bagans, love him, hate him, whatever. I don't care. But in his show, the one documentary he did on the Demon House, I was watching that. I hadn't seen it when it first came out or anything else, but I finally decided, I'll sit down and watch it. I got watching it. There's a thing where he talks about this demon that he saw in his dream. And they showed it on TV, and it literally freaked me out because at age 17, I saw that exact thing. Seriously, I saw that exact demon. And it was coming for me. And I could sense that. I could feel it, and I saw it. I just shut the show off. I couldn't watch it anymore. It freaked me out that bad. And it took me about 3 weeks to go back and finish watching it. Then the funny thing was, and excited because I had totally forgotten about this. I had pushed it out of my head, that whole experience at age 17. And I just said, nah, I ain't dealing with this. I'm not doing this paranormal stuff anymore. Forget it. I want nothing to do with it. And I focused on my life, my friends, school, hunting, fishing. I got completely away from all that stuff and pushed it out of my head until I saw that show. And then, like I said, 3 weeks later, I finished watching it. Also, 3 weeks later, who contacts me, but the company I've been working with, Our House Media, say, hey, we want to do your origin story. Good for you. I just remembered it. So, while this thing was coming for me, and I would just say watch the show because, hey, watch the show. But while this thing was kind of coming for me, and it was almost there, and I was terrified and couldn't move and couldn't yell, and something whispered in my ear, and it wasn't a female voice, wasn't me, but it said, "You're going to be okay. You have things to do." And then I heard this thing scream ungodly, and it was gone.
Oh.
And I was able to move again. Everything. I was like, and I was sweating profusely. I freaked out. And that's when I said, "Not me. None of this. No thanks." So I got out of it completely. Yeah.
A past relative watching out for you, or
actually, I think these days it was something angelic in nature. I went back and think about it and seeing what I've kind of the cases I've ended up doing. I think because when you get into working with demonic cases, this is a calling. It's not something you just decide to do. You get dragged into it, number one, because I never wanted to do them. I never experienced them until a friend of mine who was a minister prayed for me to have demonic cases. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't do that. No, I want nothing to do with that. He goes, no, you can help people. I know you can do this. You can help people. I'm like, yeah, no thanks. No thanks. But he did anyway. And then a year later, I got my first demonic case, which wasn't a possession, but the person was being oppressed, things like that. So then you start seeing more of these cases, and I think it's because you're being called to do it. You don't want it, but you're being dragged into it, so to speak, because you can help people. And that's why I do think we ended up with the right alignment of people, that we actually did have this one possession case. We were able to help these people because of that. I'm not an exorcist, but I happened to run in and got to know a guy from another team. I became part of their team, and he is an exorcist. So things fall into place for certain reasons, But how did I end up back into when Ghost Hunters came out? Is how I ended up back into it. I met some friends online. I totally still had forgotten about my experience, but I always remembered, hey, I remember doing some things like they did on TV, like trying to debunk things and things like that. So we got to get back into it. And that's how I met Spirits of New England, and they asked me to be on their team. So that's where that ended up. But I think I got off track with where I was going. But yeah, demonic cases are something you're called to. It's not something you just decide, I'm just going to take care and do those cases. I don't even think you can find them if you're looking for them, to be honest with you. They just come to you. For instance, this is the possession case. I got contacted by a friend of mine from high school who I hadn't seen in 20 years. And seeing him, I'd talked to him in 20 years. Calls me up and says, hey, Jack, yeah, I saw you on TV and stuff, and I met this woman at a bar down in blah, 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 who's like talking about all this stuff she's having going on in her house. Do you think you'd be willing to help out? I said, sure. Yeah, sure, Mike. And yeah, it'd be great to see you again, too, because I haven't seen you in 20 years, or more, or whatever the hell it was. Funny thing was, he had been living down in Florida, and he had just come up to help his mother come back up this way, where I live in Rensselaer, New York, to help his mother, who lives in Rensselaer, and went to visit a friend down in the Greenville, New York area, and met him at a bar there, and the woman was a bartender. So, I mean, what are the hell are the chances? He ends up getting me involved, comes back, gets me involved with that, and that ends up being a possession case.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, it's what I'm saying. What are the chances? I mean, come on. What are the chances that that's going to happen? 0. Unless somebody's trying to say, no, you can do this. And that's why I think that's what that angelic thing was trying to say is, this thing isn't good. You're not going to have a problem with this. You have things to do. It's just I wasn't ready at the time to do them. But as things fall into place, you find, I think about where I went with my life and what I got into, hunting, fishing. I did videography for a long time. I ran my own part-time videography business. My work that I work with is was a lot of organizing teams to work on projects and get people to work together on things. All this brought into where I am now with all this stuff I'm doing the paranormal. All those things I did, hunting and fishing, teach you patience, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do.
Well, when you're investigating, you got to have a lot of patience, right? Because let's face it, it's like watching grass grow, right? I mean, things don't always happen, right? But you might catch EVPs, and you have to have the discipline to review all your stuff, which is what my job did for me. I have to review all this data and stuff that we did for projects. It's no different than saying, okay, I got to sit down and review this audio and video because it's a project, right? It's something you're working on. So you got to sit down, have the patience to go through all that, and you have to have the what do you always call it? But anyways, you have to be able to sit there and do it and go through it all and listen to hundreds of hours of audio, video, watch video, and go through this stuff to see what you catch, and learning. You're always learning stuff. You reach out to other people who have done stuff and you learn from them, right? So it all came together, I think, at the right timing, and that's why I ended up doing these type of cases. It was something I was meant to do. Didn't want to do it, but the good guy brought me back around to it and said, "No, you got shit you got to do. Sorry, now it's time. Do it." Okay.
Absolutely. Now,
then you come to accept that. You come to accept it, and once you do, like for me, like even with the few abilities I have, the psychic abilities I have, once I began to accept it and start using it for what I was supposed to use it for, it came real easy, right? So, like for me, if somebody's talking to me, I'll suddenly get this word start to repeat in my head if there's a message for them. And I have to stop them and say, hey, what's this mean? And then everything opens up after that. But again, I only use it for cases. I don't do readings for people. I don't do any of that. It's not my thing. I have nothing against people who do, but it's not my thing. I just want to use it to help people with. So,
100%. Now, Jen Thompson's got a question. She said, I'm just going to ask, is there a location that you wouldn't revisit?
No. I mean, maybe a demonic case, but I had to visit it, so it doesn't matter. I did have to go back because they had a little falling back, and we had to help them get back on track. So no, there's really no place I wouldn't go back to.
100%.
Especially like the famous places, if you want to talk about rolling hills and things like that. There's my experience. I haven't been to a lot of them just because of the type of cases we work on. But I haven't experienced anything really negative at any of those locations I've been to. Nothing that would keep me from going back. All right. But then again, I have a lot of faith in my own belief systems and stuff like that, and I feel I'm well protected. So, I've got a lot of friends who go with me who can help me if I do have run into something. So, there's nothing that kind of scares me anymore, no, that I wouldn't go back to.
Brian, were you raising your hand? You got a question?
So,
go ahead.
On that note, there's a location here that we've been to several years. We go 3 or 4 times a year almost.
Okay.
And it's open to the public venue, so everybody and their mothers investigate it.
Yeah.
Spirits we used to deal with that we've had interaction with when we first started going there, are now like hiding or gone. And like something else has moved in there.
All right.
And it's not demonic, but it's very mean, nasty. It has friends.
Okay.
And I just wondered if you've ever run into that in some of the public places you go.
I don't go to too many public places, but I know what you're talking about. And I think there's 1 or 2 things that could be happening with that. Either what you think was the nice spirits that left are either just really pissed off and tired of being used. Okay. They may feel used, and they're acting out. They're like no longer going to be friendly because they don't want to. They just stop making me perform for you. Okay. Think of somebody coming in your home all the time and saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you every single night after."
And that's the thing when we go there, and any location, period, we're always respective. We never call them out. We're treated like a guest.
And you can still do that and still piss people off. Just a friend comes over and keeps visiting your home every single night.
Right.
Hey, is your name Jack? Yeah,
maybe.
All right.
But my point is, they can keep coming over and be nice to you every single night, but do you want them in your house every single night, disrupting your regular routine? I don't know. I mean, you can get to the point where it's like, look, enough's enough. Go. I always try to see things from the human perspective of the spirit. Because you got to remember, they were human. They still are in a way. I mean, it's who the person was, right? So they may still react the way they would if they've just had enough. Right. Or it's also possible maybe somebody else or some other group did come in with Ouija board or came in with something else and opened up,
which that's happened here too.
And, that could be happening too, and it's suppressed the other spirits that were there. They're probably still there, but they're being suppressed by whatever this more stronger presence is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that could be the issue too. But the thing of it is, you don't know until you ask, right? So, and again, that's a long process. You have to take time to sort through it and try to communicate with those spirits and say, are you guys just upset that so many people are coming here? We want to know. I mean, is that why the attitude seems to have changed? You become so negative? Has something happened? Did somebody do something or say something? Because it can be just one individual or 2 individuals that come in there that they just don't like for whatever reason too. That's totally changed the atmosphere and the attitude. So there's a lot of things that could happen. People like to jump to a conclusion that, somebody brought in something negative right away, immediately. It's like, not necessarily. You got to figure that out. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you've got to try to figure that
Right.
out.
Plus, one thing I think that is a location that's investigated a lot.
Yeah.
It depends on the personality of the people coming in there. They're leaving their residual junk there as well.
Yeah, and that's actually true. That definitely happened because unless you cleanse that area every so often, or just the energies, and I'm not talking about spirit, because you can just cleanse energy out of an area. Unless you do that every so often, you've got all this energy building up from people who've been investigating, and you've got some people who are, let's face it, it's a little bit over the top when they investigate, or they get terrified, they scream, they jump at every little thing. I mean, there's all different types of personalities, different types of people. So I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but you're leaving all that energy behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it should every so often get kind of cleansed out. I know they do that at Wildwood Sanatorium. They do cleanse that house every so often, just of the energy, not the spirit. Spirits are still there, but they cleanse the energy out of the house from everybody else being there. So
we had a good time. We had a good time in Wildwood, but in our thoughts, it seemed like a place that we need a place to go more often so that they get used to you.
I'll give you a hint because my team and I were just there, just on our own, just to do our own thing. We had it for the weekend, and we ended up sitting out the next night playing Cards Against Humanity. We actually had something join in for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
I actually played the game with it. I caught this on film and everything else. I actually filmed this. And the K2 was reacting. We had stuff coming through the voice, the spirit box, stuff like it was crazy. We had disembodied voices coming from the kitchen because we were sitting at the table down in the like the dining room area. So we were sitting there playing, and we had disembodied voices coming from the kitchen talking to us. Somebody was sitting between me and my other investigator, Sarah, my friend Sarah, interacting with the K2. Do you want another card? It would light up. Okay, here's another card.
That's so awesome.
They would, like, when we would laugh about something, the K2 would flash like crazy, like they were laughing too. And that's all we did. But we had all kinds of activities. We were doing something. When you think about it, it's a card game, right? So we were doing something that maybe those spirits were used to doing in their lifetime. And it seemed to be an older female, and she seemed to sit down and join us and just played cards with us. It was there the whole time. So it was funny. It was funny. So that's something you can try at any location, really. But that is definitely something I would try at the Wildwood Sanatorium again. So sit at that table, play some cards, see what happens. Deal them in.
That's phenomenal. Now we're at the half hour mark, and I gotta do the question of the week. For our listeners, question of the week: what spooked Chuck at the Cambria House this weekend? Brian Rowland said that it was Brian's fart. It was not Brian.
I had nothing to do with it.
Hey, I just gotta say I was alone. Jody Miller, she was the one that came up with the answer this week, and it was the door opening right in front of me, and I got it on tape, and it was an exciting time. And so she's the winner. She's going to go in with Cheryl and the other winners. And May 1st, we're gonna draw a kind of a neat prize, I think. So that's phenomenal. But anyway,
awesome.
So let's go into this. I do have another question from another. I think it's from Jen again. Okay, she says, "How intimidating was writing the textbook to paranormal research?"
Not intimidating at all. It's actually something I really wanted to do. I know it was when she's talking about the paranormal research book, which I wrote, which I actually teach local classes with at Hudson Valley Community College. And with that class, we include a paranormal investigation as part of the training, right? So I actually enjoyed it. I mean, the only intimidating part was working with Schiffer Publishing a little bit, when they give you this huge manual about yay thick of here's everything you have to do to write the book for us, and the way we want it written and everything else. But it does. I mean, it is a long guideline of stuff. I guess if anything was intimidating, that part initially was. But once you went through it, once I went through what their guidelines were, it really wasn't that bad. But you do have to identify a lot of your sources for the index at the back and all that. So you've got to go through all that and identify where your sources for different things you talking about come from and stuff like that. So, but other than that, I really enjoyed writing it. I mean, I had always wanted to do it, and I did it as hoping to plan to teach classes with it. So I kind of wrote it in a sort of textbook style, so that you could go through and reference things and go back and look them up again if you wanted to. You know, if there was something like, what do you talk about using this piece of equipment this way? You know, or what did he talk about how he talks to spirits, and, you know, how he communicates with them and stuff like that. My approach to that, you know. So yeah, it was fun to actually do. Just the intimidating part was the requirements by Schiffer Publishing so, of the guidelines to follow. So, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, it took about working with Schiffer. I think it takes about 3 to 6 months, about 6 months, I think, total, to get it all done. They send a copy back to you to review, all that stuff. The nice thing is they actually do all the proofreading for you, so I didn't have to do any of that. So, you know, so they catch the mistakes and they actually correct them for you and have you check, and they mark it up. It's like, this is, you know, here's the corrections, and is this definitely what you wanted to say? We hope we didn't change anything. You know, so they were great to work with. They were actually really good to work with, and I enjoyed it. And together we came up with the cover for the book, and they named the book. I said, look, you guys name it. You know what you're doing. You're a publishing company. You call it whatever you think is the right thing to call it. So they came up with the name, and I actually did really like it. So it worked.
That's you know, it's phenomenal. Now you haven't written a new book here recently. Are you in the process at all?
I have been in the process of writing a couple books, and just kind of life has distracted me. Like, I've got the next spirits book that I'm writing, which is just I'm putting like 10 stories together, like I did with the other spirits book. I had like I think 6 stories together, and that book goes over pretty well. And I'm also working on a second kind of like textbook of more advanced things within the paranormal, you know, advanced research stuff like that. So kind of a second phase to that, which the first book is just paranormal research, is just kind of basics from my perspective on things. So I'm working on those two, but I get distracted with life and stuff like that, different things going on, so set them aside. But I'm finally going to have some time to sit down and be here on my own and just get a whole bunch of stuff done. So I'm getting back into writing those books again. So hopefully we'll have those done this year.
And all those events, man, they're a lot of fun, because there's so I think out of at all the people that I've ever met at a, you know, within the paranormal themselves, I very few you know, have I had negative experiences, but in life I tend to have a lot more. Why is that?
What, with experiences, you mean? I mean,
yeah, like in regular life, I tend to attract you know, the you know, the riffraff, or the you know, that sort of thing.
It depends. I attract a lot of people who have issues.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking personal relations, but like when I'm out in, well, maybe my personal relations, I don't know. But when I'm out like in the mall and stuff like that, it's the people that come up to me. Here's a for instance. A woman's sitting at a table, and I'm going through, it's like Starbucks coffee. I'm getting a coffee. And she's, and then I'm waiting for my friend to come through, and she looks over and she goes, "Psst, come here." I'm like, uh-oh. Like, yes, ma'am. How can I help you? Come here. Come closer. I'm like, I don't want to get that close. So he's took a couple of, I said, "Yes, ma'am. What's the matter?" "See that guy behind you in line?" He was a biker, right? He just had his motorcycle jacket. She goes, "Yeah, I think he's an axe murderer." I'm like, "No, ma'am, I don't think he's an axe murderer." You sure? "Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. He's a motorcycle guy. He just rides." "Oh, well, it could be because I'm not on my meds today, maybe." "Yeah, well, yeah, it could be, ma'am. Yeah, you know, maybe you just want to like, just sat down here for a little while. Maybe go home and just take your meds." "Yeah, maybe that's a good idea." That's the type of people I attract. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens all the time. You know? And they just want to talk to me. It's like, it's really weird, but you know, it's like, just don't get too close and just talk to them.
You know, We don't want to smell your breath, lady. All right.
No. I mean, it depends on what kind of. I mean, if you're running with the wrong crowd, stop running with the wrong crowd. There,
That's funny.
That's all I can tell you. Just avoid those.
I know.
Where do you go? Stop going to bars, all right? Go someplace else.
Yeah. Well, I keep hanging around with this guy by the nickname Ghost Bait. It's,
That could be the problem right there.
Now we're like two peas in a pod, Chuck.
Oh, yeah. So
as long as you're together, you probably don't have any problems, right?
No.
You protect each other that way. There you go.
Yeah, I throw him down because then I can be faster.
Right. It's like the Red Bull commercial. I don't have to beat them. I have to be faster in the line. I just got to be faster than you, right? Yeah.
Right.
100%. So what is the major question from the unknown that you want answered in 2022?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Major question? I don't know. I never thought. Wow, you threw me off right there. See that? It threw me totally off because I don't think about those things. Major question for me? I don't. Well, if I ask that question, I might find out the way I don't want to. I might actually die and find out.
Oh, man. Yeah, don't do that.
I don't know. I don't know if I have a major question that I want answered. I mean, I take it as it comes. Something I guess I would like to find out for myself is what next? What next for me within this field? I've done a lot of different things. What's the next phase? What's the next step I'm going to walk into? So I guess that's it. I mean, because I don't know where it's going next. I really don't. And it'd be nice to know. Just is it going to be more of the real negative cases that I'm going to end up involved with? It's kind of funny because it's like this is like. I don't know about you guys, but over the last couple of years, because of COVID and stuff, I've done pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like the calm before the storm. And the funny thing is, it's still pretty quiet. Our team hasn't had really anybody reach out for any help of recent. So what's coming? I mean, again, to me, it's like the calm before the storm. What's about to hit? And how bad is it going to be when it gets here? I guess is the question. Hey, look, the world's a lot of crazy stuff going on, right? I mean, we live in crazy times right now. People talk about potential World War III. We're seeing stuff on TV where people slapping other people on TV. Come on. Come on. What the hell? And these are professional people, supposedly. I mean, what the hell are you thinking? Where is shit coming from? It scares me a little bit. It does scare. So what's next? What's coming for us in our field? I don't know, but I'm a little worried. I'm actually a little worried.
Well, so are we just going to see, the veil's just going to go, bloop, they're here? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
I would like to know. Here's one thing I would like to know. Since more and more seems to be coming out, is when are the aliens really going to present themselves?
Yes.
I've seen UFOs. I got nothing against this stuff. I mean, I've seen unidentified flying objects up in the boonies of Canada. I've seen some weird shit. And now, when your government's finally admitting that, we don't know what the hell these things are we going to find out what they are? I guess that's just that part of it. Are we going to find out what these unidentified objects really are?
Yes.
That would be an interesting.
And that's one of my questions as well. So we are zoned in, my friend. I'm telling you. Jen Thompson, third question, man. She needs to come all the time, Brian, so she can take care of you.
Right. Okay, I'll take this one first. For me, it's been doors. Not just the one Chuck's seen, but I've seen other doors, shut. I have seen not in person, but I've seen videos where I've seen a person get dragged across the floor.
Yeah, I would have to say the biggest thing that ever moved in my particular, it happened in my house. I was actually sitting down here. No one was home at the time, and upstairs, right beside the fireplace, I had a huge log, probably about, 10 and a half inches around. And I heard boom, and I went upstairs, and the log was literally 5 feet away from where it was at, and it was standing straight up and down.
I can't say I ever saw it move, but we heard it move. And we were able to move it. It made the same sound. That was on the, I was out in California. We were on the Star of India, and we heard this thing drag across the floor. It sounded heavy, and we went we were on the deck below. We go to the deck above, and we're looking for it. And all we saw was this big, huge chest, and it was heavy, and it looked like maybe it had been moved. So we moved it again and made the exact same sound. And this thing was a big chest about the size of a 6 foot long table, probably about I think of a 6 foot by 3 foot table. That's how big this thing was. With not quite as high, not quite as tall, but so maybe it was about 2 foot tall. But we went to move this thing, and it was heavy, and we two of us guys had to drag it, and it made the exact same noise. We kind of moved it back to where it was. That was the largest object I could ever say I know was moved. I didn't see it move. Seeing it would be a door. Yeah, doors I've seen moved on command several times. I've asked for it and had it happen. So that's the largest object I've seen.
This past weekend, man, I heard the door open, and then I got upstairs. I was alone, Nick. All right. There's a running gap there, Jack. When I went live,
that wasn't with you, you know.
No.
I get that problem around here. I got a cat that opens doors. Sometimes he opens the one behind me, and people go, "Jack, your door is opening behind you." I said, "Yes, the cat just opened. He pushed it open because I don't have it locked."
Well, anyway, so I'm there and I'm talking about it live, and the door opens again right in front of me on camera.
Yeah.
And I said a few expletive adjectives, for all you, all my students that might watch this later. So I got to keep it G-rated at least with me.
I hear you.
So we're down to the nitty gritty here. About 5 minutes left. Let's talk about where people can find your books, can find you, can maybe even book you for a Paracon, maybe in the Midwest this year.
Hey, always available. Books you can find online at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. They're all there. Just put in my name, Jack Kenna, and my books will pop up. As far as if you want to reach me for something, you can either reach me through Facebook page, which is Facebook/JACKNY45, Jack from New York 45. Or you can reach me through my own website, which is jackkenna.org. So jackkenna.org. And you can just reach me through there. I have a form you can fill out if you want to reach me for anything, any events, things like that. It'll just come to my email. So you can send it to me there.
Fantastic. Well, Jen asked one more question, and we'll get your question here before we have to call it a night here. Do you feel it's more complicated to work with child spirits?
No, but you just have to approach them as you would any other kid. Just make sure it's a child spirit you're talking to.
Because
It may not be,
yeah.
But you know what? You're better off pretending that it is. Let me tell you that right now. Don't let on that you know. But no, you just talk to a child spirit as you would a child, and you'll be fine. Don't try to talk to him like an adult.
Man, I like that advice where, you treat him like a human spirit, where that goes. So, Nick mentioned, whether or not I remembered when the ball was thrown in the doll room at Edinburgh, when Sue and him were in there, and myself. Yes. It was crazy. And also, I got to give a shout out to Brian Rollins, who did not win the question of the week because he said Brian farted. Okay.
It was a good guess, though.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen. Yeah.
Hey, tell me about it. I'll bet there it does that. Come on.
It happens, right?
Oh my goodness.
It does. Yeah. We're all just human, man.
It's either probing or flatulation, Brian. That's all we hear, on the show at one point or another tonight.
Sometimes it's both. Right?
Yes. The Reverend Tim Shaw said, what was his biggest experience? And he said gas. I can't believe it.
That's Tim. That's Tim.
Oh, my goodness. So any shout-outs out there to anybody?
Oh, I'll give a shout-out to my friend, Melanie Roche. There you go. You should have her on your show sometime.
Yes.
I get you in touch with her.
Yeah, connect us. I'd love to have her on. Maybe.
She's a very interesting person to talk to. She would love to probably talk away on your show as well. You can ask her about her paranormal experiences she's had too.
Absolutely. Now, I'll go ahead and put that up there, Brian. Hashtag Save Waverly Hills. Absolutely. Well, we're about a minute left, Jack. If you could, stay on for just a couple minutes here as we end, guys. If you like us, follow us. Follow us on Spreaker. Follow us on iHeartRadio, because every dime matters. Because believe it or not, if enough people listen, I don't have to pay for Spreaker for the year. Okay, I just want to throw that out there, and also be sure to follow Odyssey Radio. Rocky and the man, Ron Phillips, they've developed an awesome site. They're actually looking for shows too, to go in there. And you know what? Follow Short Bus Paranormal, folks, because you get to see me alone in some of the locations this year. And frankly, you will not be disappointed, because, sometimes doors open, sometimes I say adjectives, sometimes I say I'm alone. But anyway, that's kind of what it is. And you know what's exciting here? Sunday night, okay? We got 3 shows in 10 days. Sunday night we got Rebecca Williamson on, and then next Wednesday it's Karen Dahlman's birthday, and she's going to be coming on our show, and we're excited about that, to talk about Ouija boards and things like that. Guys, we appreciate you coming on. Death to Show. We're out of here, and we love you. We appreciate all that you are about.